Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Owen Losman on the line, and he's managing partner over at 55 North. Owen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Adam. Great to be here.
All right, so for everybody listening, this is part of our Super Return Berlin series where we bring you the best of those that attended and participated in Super Berlin, or excuse me, Super Berlin. Hey, they might like that name in there, Owen, but Super Return Berlin. So first thing, let's get it started. We're going to get into 55 North. We're going to get into investing in quantum, one of my favorite topics, which I know Owen does not know that coming into this. But that being said, first off, Owen, Super Return Berlin, talk to me. How'd you get involved with Super Return and how was the experience?
Thanks, Adam. Well, I do actually have a bit of insight. I've watched a few of your podcasts and I've seen a few quantum things, so I had a little bit of a heads up that
Oh,
this
you would do that,
great
you
topic.
smart. Owen's
I'm
smart.
a
Never mind.
scientist. I have to do some research, right?
So you're like, wait a minute, this guy actually enjoys talking about this. Okay, continue.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm a scientist by background. I've been running, R&D research in advanced technologies, creating, solutions to problems by new chemistries. Mainly in corporates. And then in the last, 10 years, I worked in the venture industry. I ran a corporate venture fund for a German science and technology company called Merck. And so for me, we founded 55 North around about a year ago. We built this basically from scratch with the help of some anchor LPs. And we're going out and trying to spread the message and trying to, drive interest in this new technology area. So Super Berlin was a really fantastic opportunity for me to meet many investors, many of whom, really haven't come across quantum in much detail, and really just learn a little bit how people are seeing this space, and trying to normalize the topic a little bit, trying to dispel some of the myths because it sounds scary. And, it's one of these things people ask me, well, can you explain quantum? And I'd say, well, Einstein struggled with this. So, maybe we should think about what quantum does rather than what it is.
Yeah.
It was really an opportunity to meet with potential investors, also other fund managers, and just to sort of get embroiled in a bit the fundraising and the financial side of this, because we're trying to raise a lot of money, not just our fund, but the industry in general, because this is a really interesting future technology, and I want to make sure that people are aware of it because there's so many opportunities, not just in early stage investment, but also in infrastructure, in growth capital. And we really want to make sure that everybody, as much as possible, gets to know and appreciate this space so that they have the opportunity to take part.
Yeah, I have to think about like this would be equivalent to, and maybe my time, please correct me at any point. Maybe my timeline's off on this, but could you imagine what it would have been like to start raising money and to be kind of in the space and you're talking about AI, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, 20
Well, I
years
mean,
ago?
no,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
so exactly. I mean, we were doing investments in AI 10 years ago and people thought we were crazy.
Yeah. Oh, so you were that. Go ahead, please continue. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we were invested in new chip architectures, trying to solve some of the bottlenecks now that these companies are driving. That's really created this opportunity for these, massive infrastructure deployment. So yeah, it's not unusual. I actually liken this back to the early days of semiconductor industry when venture capital was kind of created out of the
What
need.
what year would you call that? Just roughly, like what
Well,
roundabout?
50s, 60s, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm thinking. I agree with that. I was just curious. Go ahead.
So, I mean, people were trying to raise money to build like computers, and
Yeah.
you hear these stories like, oh, nobody's going to need a computer in their house, and so you imagine like the early investors going out trying to raise money, and this is how venture capital really started. It was companies trying to raise money for this, this hardware which people really didn't know what could do at the time, and so it feels a little bit like that as well. Even though we have history on our side in the sense that these technologies have been through these cycles before. And quantum really is the next wave of computing, right? We had the CPU era back in those days, right, where we were trying to build transistors and then integrated circuits and then mainframes. And then you fast forward to the 90s when, we started to build graphics cards, GPUs. And then, the overnight success of NVIDIA, which was 30 years in the making to produce the
Right.
infrastructure we have now in AI. So quantum is really got to go through that journey, and it provides this new compute paradigm, which really builds on those, that real strong history of CPU and GPU, but it provides access to technologies that these methods can't do. So you could cover the entire planet in data centers, and there are still problems in chemistry, physics, in, the most important things that matter to society, in clean energy, in drugs, and healthcare that, AI can't solve. And that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build the infrastructure that can solve these really, world-changing, impactful problems in the future.
What gives you the conviction? I mean, you've obviously seen some of this happen in the past, but what gives you the conviction that now is the right time to start committing capital and for this, like these types of early stage, for people to fulfill these early stage capital needs? What gives you the conviction that now is the time?
Yeah, I think so. If you'd asked me a year ago, I might have still a wee bit early.
Mm,
There's just been an explosion in the half of last year, and I think it's the product of all of the, the government initiatives, the science that's been going on in this space for so long, and also the advances that we've seen in semiconductor, which provides the technology, which now allows us to control where we put materials with atomic precision, and the quality of these materials to get down to these tiny, tiny structures is now
mm,
really starting to help us to realize these quantum effects. So in reality, it's like a combination of different forces which have led to this like perfect storm where, and also I think the wave of AI investment and, the value that people see that bring in also
hmm
helps the sort of the timing here. But I think, just back to your question, it's not about necessarily the early stage. There's been plenty of early stage
Yeah.
investment in quantum over the last sort of 10 years, I would say, right? And we've seen some quite notable exits. I think this really now the time when we're starting to see that capital at scale, the growth capital, levels of infrastructure are needed. We're turning
Mm,
this from what used to be like a physics experiment where, we have like great scientists showing we can do this to
hmm
a problem of like, well, engineering problem where it's like, okay, we can do this. Now can we do it at scale and can we do it in sufficient quality that we can actually build systems that allow us to answer these questions? So
mm.
a combination of different factors, but I think we're seeing that in the numbers. I mean, PitchBook just published a report this week. It's the first time they've done a detailed report analysis on quantum specifically. And you can just see the numbers that speak for themselves, right? The amount of capital going in from not just from the government and from the research facilities, but private capital from, well-known big ticket investors is starting to
Mm.
flow into this space, basically.
Mm.
So
So you gave quite a few examples, but I want to go a little bit further. So let's picture, we're at Super Berlin, or excuse me, Super Return Berlin,
I think
and
we're going to
I
be
was gonna say we
trademark
got a new
now.
logo, we got a new thing going here. You're right. So we're at Super Return in Berlin. We're in a meeting, and I'm missing it. Like, what are other people missing? Like, what are people missing when it comes to this space right now?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few things, right? It's quantum is a difficult topic. It's hard to
Yeah.
explain. It's, as I said, a lot of people struggle with this, even, and the more you know about it, the less you realize you don't know. So there's a lot of, this is very complex. But I think what people get stuck on is this is a long-term thing. Yes, it's going to be a long time before we can compute biologically relevant systems in a scalable way. But that there's two separate things we need to think about. There's the overall vision of where this can get us to. As if you ask somebody in the 1960s, would you like to invest in this cool thing that we're going to build AI where it can talk to you in the future? I think
hmm
you would have laughed them out of the room.
Or go further back and it'd be witchcraft, right? Go far back
Exactly.
enough, or it'd be
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think what people are missing and realized at that time was that there are still really good investor returns here. So, we're not investing to try and build the next Nvidia in quantum just yet. We're trying to build the picks and shovels. We're trying to build the infrastructure. We're trying to build the solutions which are going to drive that wave of innovation. And there's an awful lot of liquidity. There's an awful lot of flux, which is meaning that we're getting good exits, we're getting good opportunities for growth investment and also for M&A. And this means that we're driving, even though it's a long term play, I coined this term long-term impatient capital, right? So yeah, there's a long time before we get the SaaS business models, but there's not a long time before we drive for returns. We're seeing that now. I mean, the first company we invested in when we founded our fund in July last year is about to be listed on the public market within the next weeks. And that's really, investors need to realize there are great returns to be had now, and that these are not just like 10 years out. There's gains to be had now, and it can also be part of something which is really impactful. So, there's so much noise in the deep tech space at the minute, so much in space, in robotics, and all these different things. And they're very impactful, but quantum can, in fact, impact all of these different technologies in a really meaningful way. And I think it's a good time to be part of something which is growing, it's growing
Mm.
fast, and it's creating impact as well. And I think that combination is very attractive to a certain pack of investors, if you like, right?
Yeah, I think that's great. Owen, this has been great having you on today. Last thing I want to do is this is a two-part question. So you mentioned vision. Take me to the other side of this, though, that dreaming, like once we get like the fun aside, everything else aside, like once we get quantum figured out, what does the world look like? Number one. And then number two, how do people follow up if they want to continue the conversation and learn more about 55 North?
Okay, great. So I'll probably forget the second part when I answer the first part, but remind me when I get there. So in answer to the first part of the question, if you go into any high-tech business at the minute, you still have highly skilled people that have trained for 10, 20 years, and they're effectively pouring liquids, mixing things in a lab, testing, even on animals or building devices to try and figure out what's going on. What quantum promises is the ability to do that work in a computer and then go in the lab and do the experiment in a more meaningful way. So we're not just like randomly screening infinite parameter spaces. We're able to really target how do we do those experiments in a meaningful way. And that's going to have so much impact in how efficiently we can create new materials, new drugs, and new solutions to optimization problems, as well as all of the things like cryptography and everything else that comes with that. So, and then if people are interested to learn more, I mean, we're very open to talk to people. We're very curious. We're scientifically driven. We're a thesis-driven fund. We love talking to founders and we love talking to potential investors about how we can work together in this space. So I would just say, follow us on LinkedIn or go to our website and you'll find ways of getting in touch with us. And we're happy to have conversations about this. It's a fascinating area and we're really privileged and excited to be part of it, especially at this stage. So.
Fantastic. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can connect with Owen and his team. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So we don't want you to miss a thing. Hit that subscribe or follow. And Owen, been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Likewise, Adam. Thank you very much. Goodbye.